Let's start with a scenario. Picture this. You've had a brilliant week of trading. Maybe you're a freelancer in London or you run a small cafe up in Manchester. You've taken £10,000 in cash and you pop down to the bank to deposit it into your business account. You probably think once it's in the bank, it's just a number on a screen. But in 2026, that single transaction, well, that could be the very thing that puts you right on HMRC's radar. Today, we're going to look at exactly why. This whole discussion has been put together by the tax experts and my tax accountant, and it's a look into HMRC's hidden tax.
Because, you've really got to understand this. The old days of cash being untraceable, they're long gone. The system has completely changed. The technology has leaped forward, and HMRC's approach is, frankly, more aggressive than ever. If you handle any amount of cash in your business, you absolutely need to hear this. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at what's really driving this hidden tax war. Then we're going to meet the digital detective that honestly never sleeps. We'll uncover how your own bank can end up flagging you, and we'll pinpoint exactly who's in the crosshairs for 2026. But most importantly, we'll then give you a simple 5-point shield to protect your business before we finish up with when it's time to call in the experts. All right, let's get right into it. Section 1, HMRC's hidden tax war. And just to be clear, this isn't about scaremongering. Not at all. It's about making sure you understand the new reality for UK businesses as we head into 2026. The whole landscape has shifted, and you need to be ready for it. So what's behind all of this? Well, it all comes down to one absolutely massive number, £46.8 billion. That's the UK's estimated tax gap, the staggering difference between the tax that should be paid and what HMRC actually collects. You can think of it as a giant hole in the country's finances. And a huge chunk of that is believed to come from small and medium-sized businesses. So HMRC is now on a serious mission to plug that gap. That number, right there, is the fuel for this entire crackdown. And to do it, they've been given a brand new arsenal of powers. Thanks to measures from the autumn budget, starting in 2026, HMRC has a dedicated small business evasion team. They're offering US-style rewards for people who inform on tax dodgers. They've got enhanced powers to go after rogue tax advisors. And here's the bit that really should get your attention. They're looking at a new offense for recklessness. Now, this is a game changer. It means you might not have to intend to commit fraud to face prosecution. Just being careless with your records could be enough. Okay, so they have the motive, they have the new powers, but how do they actually find you? Well, let's move on and meet their digital detective. This is where we pull back the curtain on the technology that spots the patterns you think nobody can see. At the very heart of their operation is a system called Connect. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like a digital bloodhound. It's an incredibly powerful piece of software that constantly sifts through more than 55 billion pieces of data from over 30 different sources. Its only job is to build a detailed financial picture of you and your business and look for anything that just doesn't add up.
And its reach is just huge. First, the obvious one. Connect sees your bank accounts. It compares the money going in with the income you've declared on your tax return. It's a simple check, but it's incredibly effective at flagging a problem.
It also sees your land registry records. So, let's say you own 3 properties, but you're only declaring rental income on one of them. Connect will spot that inconsistency in a heartbeat. Undeclared rent is one of the easiest things for it to find.
Now, here's a massive change for 2026. Connect now sees all your activity on platforms like Airbnb, eBay, Etsy, and Amazon. Because of new rules, these companies now have to report what their sellers are earning directly to HMRC. So that little side hustle you've been running, yeah, it's not under the radar anymore. And this just shows how deep the system goes. It can even check your social media. Now, stay with me because this catches a lot of people out. If your tax return says your business only made a modest profit of, say, 20 grand, but your Instagram is full of pictures of a brand new Range Rover and a first-class holiday to Dubai, Connect will flag that as a lifestyle mismatch. It's not a person spying on you, it's an algorithm that spots when your online life doesn't match your financial. And look, this isn't just speculation. In an official statement to Parliament, HMRC themselves said the system identifies hidden relationships between people, organizations, and data that could not previously be identified. In other words, it's built to connect the dots that used to be completely invisible. Which brings us to a really crucial point for any business that handles cash: how your own bank reports you. You'll definitely want to hear this part because it gets right to the heart of what happens with those deposits. So, Let's bust a common myth right now. A lot of people think that banks have a direct hotline to HMRC, reporting every deposit over a certain limit. That's just not how it works. The reality is, if your bank suspects any kind of financial crime, and that absolutely includes tax evasion, they are legally required to file what's called a Suspicious Activity Report, or a SAR, with the National Crime Agency. And yes, the NCA and HMRC work hand in glove, so a SAR can, and very often does, lead straight to a tax investigation. So what makes them suspicious? Well, this table gives you a pretty good idea. A single cash deposit under $5,000 is usually low risk. But the crucial word there is pattern. If you're regularly depositing, say, 8,000 or 9,000 pounds, the bank's software will flag that as irregular. Once you go over 10,000, you should expect some questions. And at 25,000 pounds or more in cash, a review is almost guaranteed and a SAR is highly likely. The key thing to remember is that the bank's computers are looking for unusual patterns, not just one magic number. And that leads us to the single biggest red flag for any bank. It's something called structuring. This is where someone deliberately breaks up a large amount of cash into smaller chunks to try and fly under that 10,000-pound radar. Depositing 9,900 on Monday, another 9,900 on Wednesday, thinking you're being clever. Well, far from making you invisible, that pattern screams, "I'm hiding something" to the bank's software. It's one of the fastest ways to get a SAR filed against you. So, with all these new powers and all this surveillance, who should be the most worried? Let's move on and look at who is squarely in HMRC's crosshairs for 2026. Remember that new team we mentioned earlier? Well, this isn't just a token gesture. We're talking about 350 dedicated criminal investigators in HMRC's Small Business Evasion and Enforcement team. Their entire job is to use the data from Connect to find and investigate small businesses. They have the time, they have the tools, and they have the mandate to do it. So who are they looking at? Well, top of the list are your classic cash-intensive businesses, barbershops, cafes, takeaways. Next up, landlords with undeclared rental income. That's easy pickings for Connect. Then you've got the online sellers on Etsy, eBay, and Amazon thanks to those new reporting rules. Gig economy workers and freelancers are also on the list, as their income is now much easier to trace. And finally, crypto investors, as new global reporting rules are coming into force. Right, that was all pretty heavy stuff, I know, but let's shift gears from the problem to the solution, because being compliant is your absolute best defense, and protecting yourself is actually much more straightforward than you might think. This is your 5-point compliance shield. Think of this as your simple, actionable checklist. Number 1, keep meticulous records. This is completely non-negotiable. 2, always have a clear paper trail for large cash deposits. If you bank 15,000 pounds, make sure you have the invoice that shows exactly where it came from. 3, declare all your sources of income, no matter how small they seem. 4, deposit the full amount. Just bank it all in one go. Don't structure it. And 5, if that dreaded brown envelope from HMRC ever lands on your doormat, respond immediately. Burying your head in the sand is the worst thing you can do. And if there's one golden rule to take away today, it's this fantastic tip from the experts at My Tax Accountant. They say, always deposit the full amount. Breaking it into smaller chunks to stay under the radar looks more suspicious to the bank's algorithms, not less. It's trying to be too clever that actually makes you stand out. Okay, and that brings us to our final section, knowing when it's time to call for help and what your next step should be. So let's just boil everything down. If you only remember 3 things from our chat today, please make it these. First, HMRC's Connect system sees far, far more than you think. Your digital footprint is basically an open book. Second, banks report suspicious patterns of behavior, not just big one-off sums. And third, good, clean, meticulous record keeping is and always will be your single best defense. All right, just a quick and important disclaimer before we wrap up. Please be aware that this information is for general guidance only. It's accurate as of January 2026, but it shouldn't be the only thing you rely on when making financial decisions. Look, if anything we've talked about has made you feel a bit uneasy, or you just want that peace of mind that your business is fully protected, the best thing to do is talk to a professional. For expert advice that's tailored specifically to your business, you can get in touch with My Tax Accountant. Their phone number is 0208-570-8531, and their email is info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk. And finally, if this was useful for you, please do consider subscribing to the My Tax Accountant channel for more vital updates to help you and your business. Thanks so much for listening.